Chatters! Welcome to this episode.
Welcome. Hopefully this audio is a bit better than some
last time. Actually, better check.
Yeah.
Hold on, we good. We're plugged in.
We are both so uncomfortable on this bed as well, just to put it out
But
there.
I am comfortable in this dressing gown.
In this robe. This hotel robe. You look
It's
beautiful.
actually not that great. It's very thin. It's kind of dingy. It makes my belly feel big.
It's literally like I thought I saw it and I was like, oh, this will be nice and like big and cozy. And then on the inside layer, they've made it tight. I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea why.
No.
It's like they've sewn the inside layer tighter than the outside.
Well, my sewing experience says that it's there.
Cool.
Yep.
Anyway, we thought we would dig a little deeper into our experience in New Zealand. If you haven't heard the full episode, the chit chat episode, hop on over and check that out first because that'll give you good context leading up to this. But it's been an amazing week. Yeah. And a lot of takeaways. So we wanted to dig a bit deeper into that.
Let's dig.
Yeah. So for you had an experience that was quite intense.
Yeah, I had many. So it was I think it was on our second night.
Yeah.
One of the exercises that we had to do was to go back into a traumatic experience. And I won't share that here. That this is something that I'm working on and it's quite personal. But I had to relive it and really, because what we try to do is understand that scenario more on what did we lose. And for me to fully understand what I lost, I had to go back and live it.
And list it.
And list it and write it out. And then we unpack that more. And you dig deep, man. You dig really, really deep. And it was quite anxiety inducing. And what they said as well, take at your pace. Like if it's that traumatic, just a little bits at a time, and so don't go overboard, especially if it's anxiety inducing. But it was for me. I just felt really tight across my chest and my arms and so forth. And I bet so wanted to understand this more. And so I stuck with it and I did the exercise. But yeah, it was hard to do. And that was on the Wednesday. It's probably my lowest day. Yeah. Not at depression wise, but I was raw. I was tired and raw and yeah, I didn't have much left in the emotional tank, but yeah. And
then we went into the next exercise, which was to then, because we've listed all these losses.
Is the next day?
Yeah. So we list the loss. We go through the experience, and then we list what we lost in that. And that was just so
And again,
heavy.
Just for context on that, you gave an example in the other episode so what a loss is, for example, hypothetically, someone breaks into our house and steals a bunch of our stuff, right? What are things that we've lost? Look, we've lost furniture, we've lost stuff, but we could have also lost security. We could have also lost peace. We could have also lost, surety that, we've got locks and they work and all this sort of stuff. So that's the losses that we're talking about. So going back into scenario, sitting in that place and thinking about, all right, this is what's happened because of this situation. What have I lost? And it's a intense process.
Yeah. So then the next day, we run through the losses, and then the activity that they gave us to do that evening was to be like, okay, with each of these losses, where am I sitting with it? Like, how am I now? How do I feel about it now? And that was a different experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, revisiting it was very hard and draining and everything else. The night after when we did this exercise, I was able to see in some areas, not all areas, but in some areas, I've actually healed, or however you want to say it, quite a lot. And that was really encouraging to see. But what it did as well was give me hope in the areas that I was still struggling with, because otherwise it's just this big cloud. You have this scenario in mind and it's like, this scenario was hard. Why was it hard? Well, because of this. But then when you break down the things you lost, it's more helpful to understand, like, actually where I'm at now in that scenario is, yes, it was hard, but I'm not struggling overall now. It doesn't have this overall weight about it. I'm struggling with this area, and this area. These areas I'm actually doing really well in, but these are the tools that we got to address the ones that I'm struggling with. So that gave me a lot more hope and confidence in myself as well, because when you know of the things that you're struggling with, for me anyway, I can get really low on myself, like really hard on myself. And A lot of shame comes with that. And so it just gave me more hope and reassurance that I'm on the right path, that I am growing, I'm coming through it, even though it's been years down the track. So, yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting, though, because that was the opposite way for me. So going through the losses was actually not encouraging, but it was really helpful. And I found it quite a like interesting and motivating activity, because I was like, that makes sense. This is the thing that I've experienced, and this is what I lost in that, rather than I experienced this thing and I just feel weird. Looking at, I feel that way because of these losses that sit under those experiences. And then the next day when we went on and said, how are we going with those losses? I found that process really difficult. So it was funny to kind of have the opposite extremes. It didn't make me low in the same way. Didn't make me anxious. It just made me, I think I was like, I don't know how to weed through these. I don't know how to separate them from all the other losses. Because the other thing we found as well is like, one situation will happen. It'll, cause these emotions, cause these losses and this pain. And then we'll often see that as a pattern through the rest of our lives. So almost all of the experiences that I noted on my story, and same for you, really related. And that's probably because we were triggered. When you've got, a loss you've experienced already, you're going to be facing situations differently. So yeah, it was a fascinating thing to kind of like, the first time I was like, it's all right. And Blair's like, oh my gosh. And then the second day you're like, this is great. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But it was a really good process. And one of the biggest things they said to us was like, trust the process.
Yeah. And that was really hard for you to do.
It was really hard.
It was really hard for you to trust the process. How do you feel about the process now?
I feel good about it. I think I'm very aware that I, at least, can get very much like, this is the process and it will fix me subconsciously. Consciously, I never want to admit to that, but no process is going to do that. No process is the process. And so trusting the process and allowing it to do what it can, but also recognizing that without, risking saying process too many times, that it is a process to heal, regardless of which framework you go with or what you do to do that. So this isn't the be all and end all for that. So I think I felt better once I kind of got my head around that.
And this is the training. We're not just doing these things and now we're fixed tomorrow. It's actually, no, we're training. This is us training. We're working through this stuff. We're getting better. We've just got a bunch of whole new tools, like a whole set of new tools to address these areas that we're struggling with so we can train more.
Yeah.
And again, this is what this podcast is we're training, and we're training with you guys, and then journeying with your relationships as well, which is really exciting.
Yeah. So a takeaway that we had, probably the biggest thing that was like, not an aha, but it was like, this is a great thing to do, is the importance of telling your story. And even just as a foundation to work on your other things. And obviously when you're in a relationship with someone, you've had storytelling along the way. That's how you get to know each other and how you fall in love. But we found it so helpful to actually sit and tell our stories chronologically in just it took hours. Like I'm talking.
It took 2 days. Well, it took
2 full mornings.
Yeah, mornings. It took so pretty much took a day to get through.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. Like that's a huge chunk of time that you wouldn't normally spend.
Yeah.
Just sitting there talking about your story.
Yeah.
It was a special situation because we had third parties in the room that didn't know the story. So it was interesting hearing your story from the lens of them. Yeah, as you're telling them, because I was like, I wasn't just listening to it from Amy's ears. I was listening to it from their ears, listening to it for the first time, which is difficult to replicate if you're not in a situation like that. But one thing we wanted to suggest was a good date night activity, and something that might be really helpful is to have a storytelling night with your partner and just start from the beginning, like start from before you're even born if you can, and just say what you know about your parents' backgrounds and how they got together and early years of your life and what that looked like and how those things were impacted, and just kind of run through the stories so that you get that fuller picture.
Yeah, complete picture.
Yeah. You don't have to take 2 days on it. Don't, in fact. But yeah, it might be a really helpful foundation. And if you can go about it in a curious way, so you're not going in there like already irritated at your partner and you're hearing their story like, yeah, but whatever. Like, yeah, but you're overinflating that, or you're not projecting your stuff on it.
No.
So make sure you're in a good headspace to do it. But if you can come in curious to hear and learn about what made you, I think that would be really a hugely helpful activity to do for a date
Yeah,
night.
because that was cool too. It wasn't a matter of this is my story and with the lens of our relationship.
Yeah.
It was actually through the lens of myself and my experience. So you didn't comment on my story. I didn't comment on your story. This is just me sharing, because whether it's like completely accurate or not is not the point. It's how I've seen it and how I've taken it in, and that's what we're addressing. And then again, that's just the first step of many. But yeah, it's really good, guys. I highly recommend it. And if you like, do it this week or do it next week. Book in a time to do this. Like, sit down, date night, Uber Eats, get it in. Put your jazz music on YouTube in the background. Make it all fancy and just tell your stories and really get into that. It was a great experience.
And some people might really struggle to do that. They might be like, I don't know. So you could, even before you come to it, think of, or even Google a few icebreaker questions to ask them about their story. So we could sit down. I could be like, so tell me about, like, did your mom grow up always here, or did she move here, or did your mom get along with her parents, or when did your parents meet? Like, you can ask some prompting
questions. You could do
questions.
an interview thing, right? So your partner could go to like ask questions for you, and you could ask questions for them to help them tell their stories, because that was part of it too. We were shown how to tell our stories, and we'll do that. I reckon we'll do that eventually.
More on that,
and we want to do in the future. We want to do a retreat to be covering all these sorts of things as well for couples. And so, keep an eye out on that. But I'm not sure when that will happen.
Yeah, don't hold your breath. But
it's in the pipeline.
It's in the pipelines. It's definitely on the dreams. So we're excited about that, and I think this is a really good way to get to know your partner more. It might feel uncomfortable, but I promise that the more you dive into the story, the less uncomfortable it's going to feel. And there is nothing uncomfortable about you knowing things about your partner.
Yeah.
I think it's the more you know, the more you can hear their experience and their story, the better foundation you're going to have to tackle the things that pop up, because you'll understand more where they're coming from. Yeah. So that's our takeaway from our New Zealand week. Thanks for following along, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Yep. Have a good week.
Good chat.